Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
Satu, when was the last time you checked a piece of fitness technology?
Right after my workout today.
And what was that? What were you looking at?
So I use a Whoop, and whenever I start my workout, I set my Whoop to I tell it I'm being active, and then at the end of it, I save my workout and I just peep the little strain score. But I really have to say I don't primarily use my Whoop for strain related inputs. I mostly use it for sleep and recovery.
So safe to say you look at it daily?
Oh, definitely daily.
Okay. Any other devices that you use? Health and fitness devices, apps, things like that, tracking?
I don't think so. I think I really enjoy the Whoop, but I think that's really the only one I use. What about you? You got a lot going on these days.
I got a few.
Yeah.
Well, I have my Whoop back on. Took a little break from it for a little bit. I was experimenting with a continuous glucose monitor.
How does that work? Does that like go in your vein, or like is that stuck to you? I've never seen one of those.
Yeah, it's like think of it like a thumbtack.
Uh-huh.
Just it's without like as aggressive a pointy end, and it's like a sensor. So there's a little something that sticks into your tissue. Ideally, you're not supposed to put it like right into a muscle, but like, you know, it kind of works anywhere. So there's a little sensor, a little pin prick that goes in. The sensor covers it. You clean the area. The sensor itself has a little like adhesive sealant type of thing, so that it's kind of like it stays sterile. And then you put a piece of tape over that whole thing, and it's just continuously monitoring the level of sugar, glucose in your bloodstream. And then, you know, it can send that signal to an app where you can see a readout in like a graph, like, well, what's going on with my blood sugar?
Yeah.
And we have a homeostatic set point for blood sugar. So, you know, your body is supposed to keep your blood sugar at, you know, a certain level. I'm not even going to try with the actual, unit of measure, but basically it's like, let's call it like 80 is the number it's supposed to stay at. When you drop below that, because you've used up, you know, some sugars, your brain has taken sugars out of your blood and used it for energy, then your body will go to its sugar stores, which is glycogen in your liver or in your muscles, and it'll break that down and put that back into the blood. And let's say you eat a bunch of carbohydrates that break down into sugar, then that's going to elevate your blood sugar, and then your body's going to find a place to push that and store it. So, you know, we want to keep it at homeostasis. We don't want to be high. We don't want to be low. You know, too much is poisonous to the body. Too low, you start to have, mental clarity issues and energy issues. And so it just monitors that. It's really a way, we can talk about what it is, you know, how I've used it, but like just a way to kind of investigate like, well, what's going on with my body? What happens when I exercise? What happens when I eat certain foods? How does that, affect my glucose? And then you can kind of learn like, oh, when my glucose is really elevated, that's how, I feel this way. Like that's when I feel all like, you know, anxious or, you know, and then after a big carbohydrate meal, I have this big crash an hour later. And that's, I feel this way. I can see the number go down. Like, it's like, this isn't just in my head. Like this is repeatable. I can see what's happening and I want to avoid that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those are two things that I have going on. And I got some apps that like, you know, I've had apps that I track fasting with.
Yeah.
You know, fasting app, zero fasting app. And that's kind of it.
Do you have that like the chili sleep or the
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not, I mean, that's a piece of fitness, or that's like a sleep technology, but it's not like it doesn't monitor anything about me.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Some of the newer ones that are coming out, like cooling mattresses and like performance mattresses, they will actually monitor your how you're moving at night, and if you're awake or if you're asleep, and if you're really awake a lot, it'll like adjust the temperature of your bed. It's very, very high tech stuff.
Yeah.
Which I haven't explored myself yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what do you take away from getting the inputs on your glucose or from your Whoop? What is the value that adds to your training and nutrition or lifestyle? Are you making changes based on what you learn?
Yeah. This is interesting. Like I'm really happy about my, the little hiatus I took from my Whoop.
Yeah?
Yes. Because prior to that, I had pretty much worn it consistently for years.
Yeah.
And what I realized during my break and my Whoop fast was that, and then in that time period, exploring the CGM, continuous glucose monitor, was that these are supposed to be, I believe they're supposed to be tools to learn, to get information, but then to go and apply it. And I believe in the application process, it's important to just disconnect from the technology and really just focus on like, well, what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to be attached to technology forever. I don't even want to be attached to technology now every single day. I feel like we're all too attached to technology because to actually get information from my Whoop, I need to have my phone. I could, not touch my phone all day. Whoop would track it and I could read it at night. But it's like, it's a slippery slope. It's like you're just constantly, you want to look at it. Meg's put on the continuous glucose monitor the other day. She's like, that's kind of addictive. Like, you take the phone and you like tap it to it and it sends you a number. And, oh, what's my number? And looking at it all the time. So I think there's like, there's some drawbacks to that for sure. How connected it's making us even more connected. We're so connected already. And at some point it became just about the connection and seeing the numbers. And it was really no longer like this process of like, I'm learning and then I'm applying it, and I'm learning and I'm applying it. It was just like, oh, this is just, I got to know my number every day. And then I was just doing the same thing no matter what. So I think that's kind of an important point here, is that these, now if you're diabetic and you need a continuous glucose monitor to support your health and don't take a hiatus from your CGM.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like these devices that we're just constantly connected to, I don't know. I see it being, it can be useful and very informative to a certain point. And then beyond that, it's, what is it? How is it serving you? Mm-hmm. And is it impacting your daily, choices? Even things like step counters.
Yeah.
Someone's like, I got my Fitbit to track my activity. I'm like, okay, well, at what point can you track your activity and know you're moving enough without a Fitbit on? Like, get up and move. Go for a walk. Like, you go for the same walk every day and you check your same steps. Like, why is that important? My dad, interesting example here, but he's very diligent about getting his 12,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
And he checks his, his steps every day. And I think, he's reliant on that. But at this point, he's done it for years. I'm like, Dad, what 12,000 steps is? Like, you play 9 holes, you walk the course, and you go for your loop around the neighborhood, and that's your 12,000. Like, it's done. Why you keep checking your phone? Like, there's the occasional day where he like doesn't play golf, And he's like, oh, I got to go out for another walk. And he goes and like does his other walk. But even at that point, it's like he's got the data. He knows the information. Now just apply it. And you don't have to look at your phone, 8 more times a day to see where your steps are at.
But I think there can be value not in looking at your phone 8 times a day for the same information, but sometimes there is something helpful about an app to help you feel like you accomplished something and checked a box. Like, I have a hard time keeping my house clean consistently. And so I downloaded this app that helps me understand like what areas need attending to. Like, when's the last time I cleaned the microwave or whatever. It's like, it's not a mystery that my microwave is filthy, right? Like, I can just look and see that.
Yeah.
But there is something that is very satisfying about like, yes, like I did it, and the thing goes green and it's like, good job. And I'm like, pumped,
I totally get that.
Yeah.
And like before apps and before phones and before all that, like, do you think people responded similarly to like little reward pathways, like, or little? Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
people love the fucking sticker chart up there that was like,
Yeah.
boom, I just took a dump, like, give Noah a sticker, like, way to go, girl. I'm talking about my daughter here.
I know,
It's like,
I know.
You get, I'm making sure they know. Satya, you're like, oh no, I know you're talking about Noah. No, but the point being is like, it's, Megan just sent me something earlier, and it was like she's taken this online training course about, and it's like, I think it was titled, it was like it's for continuing education as a therapist, but it was like problems that no one's talking about, like issues, like modern day issues no one's talking about. And there's this like section that she videotaped for me about phones and about how phones are really like killing connection between people. It's like such an obstacle to intimacy. And when there's phones like that are in between, anybody, that it's a blockage. Like, you cannot. So it just got me thinking like, okay, well, all of these devices and these, like the Zero app, like, oh, it's green, I get to eat now. And like, all of this stuff is potentially valuable because it gives us information. Just like we tell people you should track your food for a week or a month. That's so valuable. Well, you might want to have an app for that. You could write it out in pen and paper, but it might be even a lot more effective and efficient to do it on your phone, and you're going to have that handy. But then after that, what's the value? Like, what's it doing for you? How is it supporting you? How is it helping you? Is that worth the necessary connection to the technology, to the device? And at some point, and I know this for myself, it became just about, I've got to just do the thing. I got to check all the boxes every day. I got to do this technology. I got to check that. And now you're just checking boxes. And do you need to add another 10 things to your list every day to do?
Right.
For really just the sake of being a task-driven person, and to be like, I did stuff, which feels good because we're in a society that says being task-oriented is great. Mm-hmm. But did you even experience the things? Like, what did you do? Like, I'm glad you checked the box, but like, were you there for that moment? Like, and I'm speaking about this very passionately because I'm that person who's just task-oriented. I'm great at it. I will win the task list.
Yeah.
And people will be like, dude, you're really disciplined, dedicated. It's like, but then was I there for it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more of a challenge for people these days than, creating a new list to check off the box. And if you're just a box checker, I think that disconnects many people from the experience and building awareness around the experience and how it makes them feel, and then truly internalizing those as like long-term behaviors that they're going to stick to and that fill them up and that they want to do, as opposed to like, I got to do the thing. I got to check the thing. What's my number?
Yeah. So what made you decide to put the Whoop back on?
Good question. Got the battery pack back. The battery pack vanished.
Ah.
During
so it was a forced break.
It was a forced break. Yeah, during the move. And yeah, I got the battery pack back. I was, I had been experimenting with some new nutrition protocols during that time that it was off. And I was curious to see what that was doing to me.
Yeah.
In addition to wanting to, so I had basically for 6 months gotten into a rhythm with my training where I was more in like the everyday the same versus like I'm going to challenge myself a lot on these days and I'm going to intentionally back off on these days. So like my competitive years of training were very much like I had high days and low days. A couple high days, take a low day. Couple high days, take a low day. And that was a very effective approach for progressing aspects of my fitness. Then I kind of got into like look good, move well, just going to move every day, and sort of just rode this sort of like steady thing for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I want to explore getting back to more of the progressive overload, really challenge myself, and then take rest days and see what that feels like with this methodology that we've been using in Look Good, Move Well. So there were two big changes that were happening. I really wanted to just see like, okay, what's this doing to me on a, on a nervous system level, heart rate variability, and just have like an accountability check-in on my sleep efficiency and consistency. And 2.5, 3 weeks back into wearing it, and I'd say I'm not necessarily using a lot of the, I'm like, okay, yeah, my low days, like when I've trained really hard for a couple of days, like my HRV is down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not well recovered.
Yeah.
And then when I back off and just do a very easy cardio day as a active recovery day, and I eat a little bit extra fruit on that day or something, like it kind of climbs back up. Okay, that's good. That's kind of aligned with how I'm feeling. But there's not more that I'm taking from it now.
Yeah. You mentioned some new nutrition protocols you've been working on, and we got a couple questions about that as well. Do you want to explain what you've been doing?
Sure. Yeah. We said that this was going to be the episode where we talk, new age technology, and then we go backwards.
Way back in time.
We go way back in time to when people actually ate.
Before Whoop was invented.
Before Whoop was invented, there was nose to tail nutrition.
Yeah.
I've been exploring a little bit more nose to tail nutrition instead of just eating the animal proteins that I have typically eaten for the past many years. Chicken, ground beef, pork, muscle meats like pork tenderloin or chicken thighs or, ground beef. Starting to think about incorporating, organ meat from those animals, and really just like influenced by a number of people out there. I will be absolutely the first to admit that the Liver King, Brian Johnson, was pretty, he's captivating, so to speak. A viral social media sensation, and but I always like to listen past the theatrics and just sort of hear what people are talking about. And he's very committed to nose to tail nutrition, which then led me to a number of other authors, books, companies that are out there, and I started to see this thread and this trend of like, wow, there's a lot of really bright, smart, influential people who are investigating health, longevity, wellness, who are talking about the importance of eating, animal products beyond just muscle meat, beyond just like the very generic packaged, portions of animals that we see on most in most stores and most butchers. And I've known for a long time that because of the years I was really into following Anthony Bourdain as a chef, author, and his travel around the world, that cultures from all over the world, they value and they prize like organ meats, and that, these are like parts of animals that were almost like discarded, that like poor populations learn how to take this and make it delicious and turn it into really great nutrients and food. So when I traveled in my early 20s and I was in Southeast Asia, I was big on exploring like whatever there was to eat. I tried it all, and I knew that it could taste good, but then back in like kind of like in Western culture with fitness as the priority, it was like, okay, you got to eat the chicken breast, you got to eat the chicken thighs, you got to eat the lean cuts of meat. It's like there's just not a lot of organ meats like in that kind of environment and that kind of community. I'd certainly heard over the years like people say like, oh, get some beef liver, it's really good for you, and it just was such a foreign concept. I'm like, I don't know how to approach that. Mm-hmm. But I was sufficiently intrigued to be like, okay, I want to see what this is about. And to be honest, I had an exchange with Brian, the Liver King, over email. And long story short, he was like, hey, he's like, oh man, I shared with him that I was struggling with like an injury. He had asked if I would do something. I was like, I can't, my shoulder's kind of bummed. He's like, oh man, I'm going to send you out some stuff. And he sent me some liver and bone marrow from a farm that he sources some of his products from, a regenerative farm out of Georgia, called White Oak Pasture. And they're awesome. And they've been really supportive and helped send me some stuff. And he sent me a supplement, basically a beef collagen from cow trachea. And he's like, hey, just see if this, give this a try. I was like, geez, like, send me this stuff. Like, what am I going to do? Like, not try, okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
You got to try it.
I'll give the bone marrow and the liver a try.
Sure.
And I like choked it down at first. I was like, the liver was like, wasn't like anything I'd tasted before. It was not familiar. It was weird texture. And I was like, what do I do with this? He eats it raw. And I was like, okay, is that what I'm supposed to do? And the bone marrow, same thing. I was like, okay, whatever. But, with anything, I'm like, okay, I could overcome, taste. And I'm like, there's value to this from what I'm learning, not just from like one social media person, influencer. I'm like, I've investigated this. Like this is actually no joke. Like beef liver, if you look up charts of like, nutrient density in foods, and they're available anywhere on the internet. You can look it up now. It's like, it's the most nutrient dense foods, and there's a list, and it's like all, all the different categories of like micronutrients, and does it score green, yellow, or red? Like it's high, medium, or low in these nutrients, and then it gives a value for each. If you put beef liver up against any superfood that is out there, it crushes every superfood in terms of the micronutrient density in a serving, in like an equivalent serving size. Not to mention that beef liver, as compared to some of the others on the list, is much more bioavailable, meaning we can digest it and absorb it into our blood with greater ability and capacity than all of these other superfoods. So I'm like, okay, this is clear. There's some good nutrients here. am I going to eat 3 ounces of liver or could I eat 3 ounces of steak? I'm going to get the same amount of protein from both. I'm going to get the same roughly amount of fat if I choose a lean steak. But if I choose this, I'm going to get more micronutrients. Okay, it's more nutrient dense. I'm eating steak anyway. I'm going to just try having 3 ounces of this for a little while. And same thing with bone marrow. So I just explored that. And after a month, after I ran through the whole, allotment, I was like, I need to get some more of this. Like, I'm not done with this experiment. And, I come to think of it, like, I want to try maybe some other things. Like, what is it? People are eating heart. People are eating kidney. People are eating spleen. People are eating testicles. Like, and the more I read, the more I'm learning, like, okay, there's potentially this interaction that's happening where it's like you eat tissue from a kidney and that is absorbed and it's preferentially distributed to your kidney organs as like cellular constituents and nutrients to help feed that organ in your body. So it's like, you want your testicles to be more robust, eat some testicles. You want your kidneys to be more robust, your liver to be more robust, your brain to be more robust, eat some tissue from those organs from animals, and that can actually support the health of those organs in your body. Anyway, all that's just to say that, like, I just got really interested in that. And so been doing a deeper dive on what that means and, finding ways of like, okay, well, that might be extreme for somebody, but if you order, ground beef and ground bison from this company, they mix it in for you. You can get a pound of ground bison and 20% of it is bison liver, bison heart, and bison kidney, and the rest is ribeye, or whatever, strip loin or some, muscle meat that you're familiar with, and it's all mixed together, and you make a burger, and you don't taste you don't taste anything different. You're just like, that's a good burger. And what you just potentially got the benefit of was having some, animal organ meat in your diet.
Have you noticed physical effects?
I certainly have noticed physical effects. I have, number one, I think that these organ meats have been, and also at the same time transitioning to eating the majority of my protein from ruminant animals, so bison and beef, basically, like eating a little less chicken, less, but more wild boar, bison, and beef, as well as organ meats, that it's been digesting much better for me. Mm-hmm. So the digestion portion of this is important because that's your signal of like, how well am I assimilating the nutrients? And I have, always been good about like making sure I'm kind of keeping track of how much I'm eating. I'm not the chronic undereater. Like, I make sure to get sufficient energy from, caloric energy. So if the caloric energy has remained consistent, then I'm attributing any other, things that I'm feeling, upticks in, mood, energy, recovery, to sort of the micronutrient and digestibility of the foods that I'm getting in. Now, there could also be just the placebo, psychological impact of knowing, like, I'm investing into, foods that are by science and scientifically more nutrient dense and bioavailable. Like, I'm giving myself the best stuff, which I think a lot of people feel when they have a greens drink. They're like, this is the best stuff. This is it. Like, I got the greens drink. Like, this made me feel good, and that's important too, to like believe in what you're putting in your body. And, my reading and what I've taken in information wise, like, this is really good. By all metrics, this is really good. These organ meats, in many cases, are getting discarded. I feel good about buying and consuming products that are otherwise not getting eaten or getting put into pet food or some other thing. It's like, yeah, like everyone wants to get a ribeye. No one's wanting to get the liver right now, or, proportionally fewer people. So, okay, yeah, let me do that. Like when I went up to at the farmer's market last weekend, I went up to the vendor who sells the local grass-fed meats. And I looked at the list and I was like, hey, can I get some testicles from you guys? And like, she's like, Amy's going to be back in a minute. She might be able to answer that question for you. I don't know. But like, that was not a question they're getting very frequently. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, something's happening to those, they've got steers out there that they're, like what do we, so anyway, there's that impact of it. And, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's super cool if American farmers markets catch up to what's happening in the rest of the world and what's been happening in the rest of the world forever. Like I went to France many, many years ago and I wanted to make a chicken soup when I was there, and you could just go to the farmer's market and ask for the chicken feet and they're like, yeah, sure, here you go. That's a totally normal thing.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been making bone broth myself, and that's been a totally pleasant addition. Like I had these bones that I scooped the marrow out of, and then I made bone broth with it just by I don't know how to make it. I just was like, well, water and bones and heat it like for 24 hours. And this like golden, like thick, like broth came from it. Like I strained it and I put it in a couple jars, and it was like I could like scoop it out with a spoon. It was I'm like, that's collagen, gelatin. Like those are all the things people are supplementing all the time. It's like, it's right there. I just sucked it out of these bones and I'm drinking it, a little bit of salt, and it tastes really good. And again, it's like just connecting more with like the foods that we're eating and extracting all the different nutrients out of it. And I was like, in getting so focused on macros and like, am I getting my protein, my carbs, and my fats? Like, and you can get them from all these different sources. Like, you could potentially miss this whole side of the equation, which is micronutrients. And, if you get a protein that has very limited micronutrients, or you get the same protein that is rich in micronutrients, you're going to be more well nourished by eating that. And you get to determine for you what that is. You go and source what you believe has the best micronutrient content that you can digest the best. Somebody says, hey, that's spinach and broccoli for me. You digest it well. You're thriving on it. You're kicking ass. You feel like satiated, and it's just great. Go for it. If that's a little bit of liver and, a bison burger and some, oranges and a cucumber, great. Then that's what you got to do.
Yeah. So today we talked about ways to optimize your health and fitness in a high-tech way or in a more ancestral way of eating, low tech, very low tech. Is there one or the other that you would steer someone towards if they're like, hey, how do I get fitter? How do I get healthier?
I mean, we live in the modern world with access to tools that can give us great insight into what's happening for our health. I think Whoop is a great product. I think CGMs are terrific if you can get your hands on them. I think the Oura Ring, I think sleep apps, I think these things are awesome. I think you should track on MyFitnessPal. I think you should count your calories and your macros and your micros for a period of time. I think you should do all of these things because they're learning tools. If they become just box checking things and just like, this is just a part of me, then I would evaluate whether you need to take a break from it or if it's not serving its purpose anymore. Use it as a learning tool. You might be a person that can learn from it every day for the next 10 years, then never take it off. That's great. So it's like use the tools to learn. Then once you learn, you make changes, and honestly, when it comes to nutrition, the evolution of healthy nutrition in the marketplace is fucked up. It's so fucked up. The next healthy thing, I promise you, that somebody is going to sell and make money off of, and they're going to have to send you advertisements about, is processed shit. It probably is going to be that. It's going to be something where they're like, we can make a lot of money if we get people to believe this is healthy, and we can process the hell out of it, and we can sell something that's a really freaking cheap commodity to make, but I can sell it for more because I did great marketing on it.
I think there's low carb beer that just came out, actually.
Dude, I was watching some influencer talk about, like, they had all these like protein puffs things.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell?
What is that?
You know what else is a protein puff? A 2-ounce piece of liver that's raw out of the freezer, and you eat it. That is superfood, but nobody's going to be able to market that and sell it at a margin like they're going to be able to do it with protein puffs that are likely protein that is like taken from like a soy plant that is injected with, flavorings and some seed oil, and then puffed in some weird thing and put in a nice package, and it's like organic protein puff.
No, it's organic.
It's bullshit. Yeah. It's so whack.
Yeah.
But that's what the evolution of food health is going to look like, is how can we make this franken food be healthy? And I have to say, going backwards, even just 50 to 60 years, like, and just looking at like, what were people eating? Heart disease is like 5x that it used to be. Things are going in the wrong direction. Go back 100 years. What were people eating? They were eating like milk from the cow outside. Mm-hmm. That's called raw milk. They were eating butter that was churned. They were eating eggs from the chicken. They had some, fruit that they got from the farm, the apples. They were drinking orange juice because they had orange trees, and they were making like, and they had some like, like that's okay. That's food. That's real food. Those are superfoods for sure. And there's nothing processed about that. There was no, damn, we got too much of this soy crop. What the fuck can we make with it? Oh, we can make protein puffs. Holy shit, that's a brilliant idea. Hey, ex-celebrity, guess what? We got these new superfood protein puffs. Awesome. I'll put my name on that. Boom. Guess what? I got my new protein puff, and it's this, and it's cheddar cheese flavor, but there's no cheddar because it's totally vegan. It's a soy protein puff, and boom, you're going to be healthy. It's like, no, you're not. You are totally not. And it might fit your macros, but that's whack.
Yeah.
Okay.
So liver is the new protein puff. That's our takeaway for today.
Liver is the new goji berry. That's for damn sure. Right. But yeah, so again, I am open to exploring things that I don't know, and using it on myself and just saying, okay, how does this make me feel? Does it align with my understanding of science and my years of experience in this? And is there, a evolutionary biology, like, is it congruent with like our evolutionary biology as I understand it? And, is it sustainable? Like the sustainability question is interesting. It's like, am I going to be eating liver forever? It's like, well, it's interesting because 10 years ago, like, the access to this stuff wasn't as good, and, it's catching on, and like Liver King has helped so many regenerative farms out there increase their sales dramatically. What happens when that happens? Like, they get to buy more land. They get to, have more animals on their farm. They get to sequester more carbon into the earth and help improve environmental impact. Like, okay, that's now going to help them grow and make this more accessible and available to people, and potentially drive prices to a point where a lot of people can afford it. And it's like, okay, maybe it is really sustainable. Like, if you go to like Hong Kong, they're eating freaking gizzards every day, lots of them, it's super sustainable to eat that way, because it tastes delicious and it's amazing, and that's part of the culture. So we need to, maybe that needs to change. So I don't know if I'm going to be eating, 3 ounces of liver a day for the rest of my life, but, I'm not trying to think that far in advance. I'm trying to learn from this experience and allow it to upgrade just my understanding of food culture, of health and vitality, and then ultimately just sort of like reevaluate, well, what are the current like trends that are happening? And holy smokes, it's really, when I've read food labels for a long time. When I really started to dig into the food labels on some of the stuff we're feeding my kids, I'm like, no. Processed seed oils in everything, refined sugar in everything. The combination of those two things is what my kids are eating a lot of. Hell no. Hell no. That is going to be a dramatically bad outcome. So we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Nailed it. Right on time. Nate, that's funny is like at about the 10-minute mark or 15-minute mark, Nate shows us the clock.
Yeah.
At about the 20-something minute mark, he shows us the clock. And then he realizes we're just going. He's like, fuck.
He's like, I just give up.
I'm not showing him the clock anymore. They're just...
He's just chilling over there.
He's going to talk. I think, you know what? I think I've just hit that moment like where I've kind of gone low carb for a couple days and I'm just like in like this kind of hum like maybe the ketones are kicking in or something. I'm just... We can do...
He's in ketosis.
I'm ready. Ready for another episode. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for putting up with that. And cheers.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.